I've bought 136 knives this year so far, but honestly, I think this one might be my be-all, end-all favorite. Here's why. Now, by its very nature, a karambit is very much a high-risk, high-reward weapon, right? What I mean by that is that if you really take the time to train yourself, the amount of control you can exercise with that weapon is really kind of unparamount. The amount of versatility, the amount of control, the amount of movement and fluidity you can achieve is really just insane. But on the other side, if you do not respect that weapon and you do not take the time to learn it, you can devastate yourself. Using an edged weapon for combat is dangerous no matter who you are, but with a karambit, the odds of you just absolutely impaling yourself, lacerating yourself, disemboweling yourself, or degloving yourself is pretty damn significant. So as far as my background with the weapon, originally I played Counter-Strike Go as a kid and I fell in love with it, right? But I was not one of those people that went and bought a really cheap ass karambit. I'm going to go be a mall ninja. I started studying. A friend of mine growing up, his entire family practiced Kali religiously. To be clear, the karambit isn't so much really used in Kali that much, at least not traditional Kali. But I still wanted to train regardless, and I found ways to go about doing so. And the more I learned about it, the more I saw what it can do, I just really fell in love with it. Enter Doug Micarta and all of his crazy ass videos, and later on Bastinelli knives, and more recently Microtech knives. And man, I am deep in the love of this blade shape, type, style, and just the overall cool factor. Now, with all that being said, when I first got this knife in hand, I fucking hated it. To be clear, I hated it because I did not understand it. Once I really started to understand it, man, that hate turned to like, and that like turned to goddamn amorous because I love this knife. So much so that I'm going to do two reviews. This is the generalized, EDC. Maybe you want a light self-defense weapon or whatever, right? Maybe you care about that type of thing. Maybe you just want to dip your toes into it. If that's the case, this video will tell you everything you need to know. But if you really are deep into this hobby and this love and this just kind of art form of the karambit, a video will be posted very soon where I will go and do every little detail in tedious, intricate detail, because as all self-defense practitioners know, those details can add up to a great experience or an absolutely terrible one, and the little things can definitely be a deal breaker. But for this video, let's run through the specs, the blade, the edge geometry, the ergonomics, the style, and just why I love this knife. The steel on the Ionic or Iconic, I don't even know how you say this, is 204p, which in many ways is kind of overkill, but in this case, that's a good thing. A karambit is not one of those tools that you're going to pry with, beat on, or just kind of disrespect. It's a very purpose-driven tool meant for fast, rapid strikes and then to disengage. And for that, 204p steel will hold a fantastic, very keen, very aggressive edge that will rip into material. And the edge geometry itself, as you can see, it just really kind of hugs said material. In this case, some very thin receipt paper from the post office. There's almost no real grabbing, it just grabs it and then slices clean through and hugs it, and is just very keen, very beautiful knife, man. The edge geometry is really kind of ridiculous. As far as the actual tip, it'll puncture, it'll cut, it'll lacerate very effectively. The karambit in general is one of those tools that is just very purpose built. This is originally meant to, harvesting grain and things of that nature, but it has had slight variations over the years to make it into one very specific thing, and it does that thing very well. Now, as far as the ergonomics, if you are uninitiated on what a karambit is, you're going to want to put the ring very far back like this, right? And the moment you do that, the ergonomics on this knife suck. But to those who are more familiar and they know what degloving is and everything else, and they've really put the time and research to understand how this weapon is supposed to be used, you want a very loose grip to be able to, one, basically act as a knuckle duster, to be able to move this finger in and out very easily if you need to. and to really have that grip that facilitates both striking as well as laceration, slashes, and other pieces like that. And this knife is actually designed for that, which most karambits and most finger ring knives, captive ring knives in general, they don't really have that. It'll only feel good if you're basically wearing like an actual ring. And this, for all of my people out there that know what I'm talking about, is an absolute liability. Case in point, the Fox, I believe it's the 479. I actually really enjoy this knife. But if you hold it like this to where you can easily move your finger in and out of this ring, it doesn't quite feel, perfect. However, if you take it very far back like this, you get this absolutely incredibly ergonomic knife, but this is not how a karambit is generally supposed to be held. So I love that Microtech and Bastinelli Knives took the time to actually really research what these knives are supposed to be and made it right for the actual end user and not for comfort for mall ninjas. As far as the ergonomics in general, to me, they're just kind of okay, which is honestly the reason why at first I did not like this knife. I put it in hand and I was like, it's not my thing. But then, folks, I actually carried the knife and I understood immediately why it is designed the way it is. It's infinitely concealable. It's very comfortable to carry. There is very slight imprinting, but it's not bad at all compared to other pieces like this. And also, what is a constant struggle for the fat folks, and in many ways the skinny folks as well, but not quite as bad, is having that knife basically ram its way into your guts. Which is that you carry it and you carry it just fine, kind of towards the actual abdomen, and then as soon as you sit down, it just stabs the hell out of you. Now, you could definitely carry it to the side, but it doesn't quite feel as right. It also imprints quite a bit more. You kind of get that handle sticking out. But what Bastinelli and Microtech knives did is they basically created a sheath system and a knife just in general. You can just slide over just a little bit and basically not have that issue. So I will get up, slide it over to that abdomen position, and then slide it right back over again when I want to sit back down. It's very easy. It's very honestly intuitive, and it makes it to where you can really carry this knife everywhere, from the car to the park to doing literally anything. It feels good to carry, which is a very important piece for a self-defense tool, because the best tool is the one that you're actually carrying. So it doesn't matter how good it feels in hand, how good everything happens to blend together. If it does not feel good to carry to where you actually want to carry it, you're not going to. So ultimately, the ergonomics, which while not being perfect for my size of hands, actually work really, really well for that most important piece of all, which is that you want it to be easy to carry. So at the end of the day, this is a self-defense tool. So, how it feels in your hand is important, yes, but how it feels to be carried, to be loved, to be used is in many ways more important. And for this thing, it absolutely excels. One thing about this knife, though, that I really, really love is that, generally speaking, I just said you don't normally use your self-defense knife for EDC tasks, but you actually really could with this. The way everything sits ergonomically and how they have this big kind of like swoop right here, you get a really solid purchase which can go through packages and other things and actually be a genuine EDC. I just opened 6 boxes with this knife and it performed perfectly. Yes, it's a karambit, so you have to be a little careful you don't draw too much material in there and just nick up your boxes and knife boxes and everything else. But as far as just cutting, it worked really, really well, and again, the edge on this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. So yes, you have what a karambit is supposed to be, which while being very aggressive, looking like a space-age velociraptor claw, it works pretty damn well, and I was very impressed with it. So my overall score on the Microtech Iconic is going to be a 10 out of 10, man. The one thing about this knife that I did not like actually facilitates something that I have such a large problem with when it comes to carrying a fixed blade or a concealed carry weapon in general. So that's more than a fair trade-off for me. And even though I could definitely get the scales fatter, I can get custom work done to it, and I honestly still might, if I carried it just the way it is right here, right now, I would still absolutely love it. And for me, that is a 10 out of 10. My next video will be reviewing the trainer, which I actually might carry the trainer instead of the live blade, which sounds crazy, but this thing is brutal, effective, and me and my buddies are absolutely covered in bruises, and I think my buddy Ryan has a cracked rib. This shit is beyond effective. So, If you don't want to carry a blade, but you still like the style of this knife, watch that video because what this thing did surprises me. Now, as always, folks, I love you all with all of my heart. Please take care and bye-bye.